Test, test, test. And it looks like we got audio. Test, test. Okay. Error. Oh, that'll help. Okay, let's see what we have today. So first up, I just want to explain that I'm going to have a poor image today because I have an awful lot of smoke. An awful lot of smoke. But I think we can work through it. We got some, looks like we have some flares. I just need my scope to warm up a little bit. It's been in the house in the air conditioning, so it's going to take a moment for it to equalize. And then I can start doing what I'm doing here. It's the 29th today. right, so that's all done. We see one viewer has showed up. I'm just going to go around the block and see what kind of features we have. On the rim first. So you can see the outer atmosphere of the sun there on the lens. One little prom there. Big spot there. Not many proms today. I think with all the activity, there'd be a lot. There's a little one there. Very faint. Okay, this region here has been hyperactive. So what we're going to do is set up the tracker after I get focus. So the tube is growing pretty quick from the heat. Okay, so we've got a prom here and kind of a neutral histogram. And this will give me enough contrast that I can use the feature tracker and I will monitor and calibrate. And after it's done calibrating, it will go into guide mode because I have guide rate set. Well, that's interesting. And then once the guide rate is set and it starts guiding, then the mount will never move. Or I shouldn't say the mount will never move, but the image will not move. It'll jump around because of the atmosphere, but it will not move. And I've gone over an hour using this feature tracker. So now it is guiding because it finished its calibration. And I can jump into the, what's it called? The Solar Lunar Planetary Stacking and Enhancement tool. Before I do that, let's see if I can. Just find a happy place for the... Okay, so now I'm in the stacker for solar, lunar, and planetary. And you can see I'm making 80 frame stacks, and it's looking very good, and it's stabilized. I have a little denoise active and just a touch fine. Oh, I think I found, we'll send that. We'll have to start this again. The joys of software. This is still beta software, so I expect issues like this. No big deal. At least you know it doesn't just happen to you. Happens to everybody. Okay, so this is, let's just move this a little bit, like so, so I'm not clipping that thing. And I'm just going to move this over a little bit, kind of like there. We'll start the feature tracker again. Monitor, we'll calibrate it. And then when it's done with the calibration, I'll have the option to guide. And you can see it's actually moving the mount around, and that's how it's figuring out what it needs to do. And when it is done with that move, then I'll be able to click on the guide. All right, so as it tells you, the calibration was successful and I can start guiding. I'm happy with the placement. So now these are, this is what the mount is doing to keep up with the image. So I will just mess with focus one more time. Jump into the stacker. And again, I'm doing 80 frame stacks, and I'll show you why in a minute. I have a little denoise and a little bit of fine. I'm not going to touch this. I'm only taking, well, I adjust this on the fly because what I want is the stack to finish at about the same time or just a little ahead of when it saves a frame for the time lapse. So we may have to adjust this number a little bit. Now I'm going into stability and I'm doing multi-point. And if I show my, I probably shouldn't have done that. This is how I am aligning or stabilizing. And you got to have your boxes big enough so that features, you'll always have a feature within the box. Okay, so I'm happy with all this. I'm going to go into my time lapse, and you can see I'm making WMVs, and I was doing this just for testing. Normally, I would use SEER video, and by using the SEER video, I could bring that into a program like IMPPG and process the whole video with a particular setting that I like, and that will enhance this. Let me see something here. Oops. This is one thing I got to talk to Glover about. There we go. Is sometimes settings don't always stick, which is kind of a pain. All right. So with SEER videos, you have a lot more options because it keeps the bit depth of the animation you're making, the individual frames within that animation. And whoops, how about that? Send and quit. So what I'm going to do is go back a version because this is today's update for SharpCap. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll go back to the last one. Hey Lou. Yep, you're the only one. Okay, so I want to uninstall this guy. I just put this version on before I started. And as luck would have it, it didn't like it. We'll get rid of this one. Are you back, Lou? I'll be going here shortly. Maybe. Okay, so what I want to show today, Lou, is the tracking feature and the time-lapse feature. And I had just uploaded the latest version of SharpCap, and as you saw, it has a little problem. So I know this one worked because I used it yesterday and the day before and the day before that. Let's go down. We need to... You can see the skies around here are not looking too good because of the smoke. Go back one. Okay, so I'm going to move this to the left, up a little bit. Oops, up, Jeff. And I'm going to start the feature tracker. And I'll have to do this again. But I want to calibrate. And when it's done, it will let me know that it's done calibrating. Hey, Jack, how are you? So I just loaded before I started this session, I put the latest version of SharpCap on and it has an issue. So this is the one previous to that I know works. So right now I'm configuring the feature tracker and it's doing a calibration, and you'll see if you just watch this area, it kind of moves around. Calibration failed. Geez, I'm just having all kinds of luck today. I think it's because of the smoke. It's changing the this might help. Give it a little more contrast. It likes contrast with these settings. I'm using the phase offset to do this, and then it's actually guiding. It's crashing on me. What the frick? And it's flaring figures. You can see the flare right there. This may not work today. What else is new? The joys of beta software. When it works, it's cool. When it doesn't, it's evil. And this test usually doesn't take that long. A couple minutes at most. And then once it's calibrated, it saves a calibration file. But because I'm always changing the software, you always have to calibrate because the old calibration won't work with the new software. Inconsistent scale. Well, I guess it's not going to work today. Let's go to another area. There's a dandy right here. And I think because it's jumping around so much, that's why it's having a hard time. Although maybe if I was in focus. It's flaring here too. All right, let's try the feature tracker again. This should work a little better. There's a flare here that's just popping up. This one looks like it might make it. No, this one also fails. Huh. When all else fails, do this. One nice thing about my mount is when you stop the software for the mount, it keeps tracking. Which is pretty cool. All right, fresh start. Still tracking, which is what we wanted. So now we'll start SharpCap, and it should be much better. Famous first words. Da, 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 da. Okay. So you can see that the histogram changed, so there must have been something a little off. Okay, let's try this one more time. We'll see what happens. So basically what this software does is it treats the image like it's a star field, and it's looking for features that it can track off of. And then once it's calibrated, you can click on the guide button and it will use those features to guide, which keeps the image stationary. It'll still be jumping around, but that's what stabilization is for. Yeah. And you can see that it's moving the mount around. And if this does not work, what I think I'll do is we'll just do a couple stacks because I have a feeling that there's just too much atmospheric junk going on today. Oh, look at that. So now I can start guiding. But before I do that, let's just make sure that you're happy with the position, which I am. And I'll start guiding. So now it will hold this position until I stop it. And I can go into the tools in the live solar, lunar, or planetary stacker. And you see that it's really not, oh, shoot, I have to go. This is what I mean. It does not keep your settings. Which is okay. So there's a flare, there's a flare, there's a flare. And what we can do, now that I'm happy with my stack, you'll see that I'm set to 80. And this is roughly how many frames I can do by looking at my frame filtering. You want to be in the green, and I'm going to take 50% at first, just to see. Here you can see it's trending down now. Figures. But I'm going to turn on the time lapse. But before I do, I have Sir Video, which I would normally want to use because with a neutral histogram like I have, I can then use IMPPG to apply settings globally to the whole sear animation. And what that'll do is if I'm on the limb and there's a prom, I can pull out the prom and still keep the surface features. So right now I'm set up for a frame every 10 seconds, and I've found that I can usually stack about 80 frames before the 10 seconds gets there, which gives me a pretty decent looking image. So all I have to do is turn on start time lapse. And what it'll do is, I want to watch this real quick. And I want to make sure that I hit close to 80 before it didn't make it. So I got to change my filtering and move it up because the skies are just a little too poor today. That might be where I got to be. And these little stacks will build up over time, and that's what gives me an animation that looks like, where did I put it? I have so many. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. No, that's from today. Shoot. It's probably on the network. Sure, maybe not. I'll just move this off a little bit here. Okay, so I think this is a good one. Yes. So this is what we're making. And you can see, let me get that out of there. I'll put it into loop mode. And if you watch this area, you'll see there's little wisps of filaments that are streaming through the image. Come on. They're very subtle, but they're there. And I never would have gotten that if I was stacking one frame into a time lapse versus these 80. This is by far the best time-lapse solar animation I've ever made. And then I have another one, but I don't know where I put it. Par for the course. And that one actually has more of those wispy filament type things, but they're more obvious. And it was an animation that happened over an hour, but because of the time lapse, it looks like they're really hauling butt. Almost to the point that you would probably not see it with your eyes. So we now have 3 minutes of time lapse built up, which is 22 frames. And by looking at the tracker marker, you can see how much the image is moving in those 80 frames. Now, another thing that a sear animation gives you is those are basically sensor pulls. And it will build up the stack with 80 of those frames to make one, save it to the sear video file, and then just keep going till you stop it. The one thing about a sear video file is if something happens while you're making it, and let's just say the program crashed, that video is still good. Where a WMV or an AVI, if something crashes while you're making an AVI or a WMV, you can kiss those goodbye. And that's why sear is so powerful. It just has some error features that are a plus. That is the track, Jack. That shows you the direction that each, and the longer the blue, the bigger the move. Can you hear me, Jack? Test, test, test. Let me take a peek here. Yeah, this is the Nix 101 from Pegasus. Okay. And it's a very good mount. It will do, let's see, I can go into, where is it, where is it, where is it? I can do equatorial or Alt-AZ if I want with it. I prefer equatorial because I don't like rotation, although it would probably be good for the sun somewhat. This this chart here is the if you know, PhD2 has the target chart, and what that is every time it does an integration, it puts a little X on a bunch of like bullseye, and you want to try and keep it within this area. So that's probably 5, I don't know, arc minutes, maybe arc seconds of movement. But the longer the blue streak, the bigger the move. So you can see that these are outliers, and that's how far it pushed them out. And that I believe that in I don't believe those are getting stacked because they would be under my 55%. And you can see my skies are not very good. It's just barely making those 80 frames. So we'll stop the stack and the time lapse, I should say, when we get up to maybe 90 frames. That's 3 seconds. And anything shorter, it just happens too quick, but I could use the slider to show you. But because of this getting back to sear, if you use, like I do, IMPPG to edit your solar videos, that allows you to really pull out data where you want it pulled out. So you can reduce areas that are too bright and don't have enough contrast. And then on areas around the limb, prominences as an example, you can specifically work on just that area. And those are in the deep blacks because the sun is so bright. And that allows you to pop a prominence while you still have surface features showing. Now that's a good one here. So there are moments of good seeing. And we got 59 frames. We've got 2 seconds of animation. We'll get 30 more and I'll stop it. Now this would also work on the moon. Yep, it's treating the mount just as though it was guiding on stars, except now it's guiding on features on the surface. And you can see how much it's moving by looking at the cross here. Each time it's doing a frame, that's the correction. Are you seeing my chart? Did you send me your chart, Jack? And I'm just using stock settings for here. I didn't change any of these numbers. At first, I started messing with the minimum contrast and the minimum background level, and just decided to go back to the defaults because they were working the best. But on lunar images, this would be basically the same thing. It would probably be easier to do a track on a lunar feature, mainly because there's more obvious features when you're on the moon. Yes, I'm kind of slow, I would say, at reading it, Jack, but I do see them. I'll go back up and look here. I just explained the chart. Or not the chart, but this. I can explain it again if you didn't get it. Okay, we're up to 80 frames, 10 more to go, and I'll stop this one. And then we'll just play it. Okay. There is a well, let me see here. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Oop, I have to before I do that. Let's try that again. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's got to be about 20 seconds. There's about a 20 to 25 second delay between what I say and what you hear. So by the time you type back on something that you saw, I'm already 30 seconds ahead of you. That's modern tech, Bubba. Well, a time lapse, the only way you can change your time lapse is to do more frames quicker. So instead of 10 seconds, do 5. And that will better represent real time. Still be faster, but it'll be a little bit faster. But what I didn't like, I started doing 5-second ones, and I didn't like, because I had to keep the stack a lot lower, and it wasn't giving me the nice images with 5 seconds. But you can drag, like with Windows Media Player, you can drag the slider, and that's any speed you want then. Oh, there's 96 frames. We will stop this. And there it is. I think. Nope, that's not it. Wrong one. Sorry. I want this one. So this is the one we just made. Maybe. Well, look at that. I think we found another bug. I'm having a great time here. SharpCap just crashed. Okay, so that was the one we just made. And you can see right there, I'll loop it. Come on, baby. So just to the bottom right, you can see some little flaring activity moving around there. That is so freaking cool. So I'm just going to point to it. If you look in this area right through here, you can see, because we're looking down on top of it, we're only seeing, and there's some even over here. Wow, that is so cool. This is the sun in real time. How do you get rid of this stupid thing? Guess you can't do anything about that. So now what I can do is take the slider and I can just drag it back and forth. So if you watch right in through here, you can see how that evolves and then moves. Pretty cool stuff. There we go. This is, I'm working my mini PC to death, I think. Well, that would be 1 frame every 10 seconds, and then I'm playing it back at 30 frames per second. So it's 3 times speed up. If I did my math right. Okay. It's really hot here today. And it could be that I need to shade my stuff because it's probably, I'm sure it's probably putting in some overtime hours trying to keep itself cool. So let's go see if there's another area of interest. Oh, there's something up there. What's that? It looks like it might be flaring. Yep, right there. Little flare right there. Little arch right there. And then you can see right here is the, and Jack knows the name of this area, but I call this the spot where all the little spikies happen on the limb. And that's actually a feature of the surface of the sun. Oops. Didn't want to do that. Might be a little windy today too. That's it. I'll never get that right. I've never done a time lapse with in reverse mode. So let's see if we can initial step movements. Let's see if it will actually track on the last guide, which it appears it's doing. And then we'll do, oh, guess we won't be able to do that because I know it will work without that. I don't know why. I think it's because of my atmosphere making the software work a little too hard today. Because this is the first time I've had that happen today. Okay. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10. So I think 2 back is where we want to be. Right there. Stabilization. Flip this sucker. And let's just see. What this looks like. Never actually done an invert animation. So we can see, just barely make out the little prom right there. And if it's moving at all, we'll be able to see that. I probably won't be able to go very long with the, yeah, it's with the time lapse. So I probably should do, we'll let it go and see what happens. You can see it's moving. Which is why you want the mount to guide. So we have 10, 9 frames. So let me stop the time lapse and we'll go here. Yeah, you can see it's moving. That little modeling you see, that's my flat. So as it tries to keep the surface in one place, we're seeing the differences in my flat across the face. So we don't want that one. And we'll leave that alone. So let me look at the feature tracker. Let's go someplace with a little more activity. And you can see flare, flare, flare. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try it again, boys. I'm a glutton for punishment. Oh, there's a nice, right here, little filament right there. You can see the feature tracker's having a little easier time here. So maybe that's part of the problem, because I didn't have enough contrast. This is a neat way to play with the sun, Jack. This one's going to be worse. Yeah. Oh, make it. It made it. So we got some bad atmosphere right here. That'd be good. Now, again, the way I used to make time lapses was, and I could have done the same thing that this is doing, but it would have been a manual process. There was no way to stack 80 frames in enough. Let me revise that. There was no software. Well, you could have done it all manually. You could have taken 80 frame chunks, stacked them, and then made each one of those stacks a frame that you ran through an animation or turned into an animation. Yeah, it's something you just have to deal with what you got, you know. If I would have stayed in today, I would have missed out on even seeing what we've already seen because the sky is so bad. But I've got like a week. Well, as far as astrophysics will go, is not looking good. Yep, yep. This is what I'm going to talk to Glover about is if he'll put in something that will allow us to say, make a time lapse for an hour and then stop. Because I don't think at this point in time you can actually use like the sequencer to do something like this. Because this is over and above what a normal sequencer would do. See, now the atmosphere is cleaning up, and you can tell that by looking at this. Now, if you didn't do this, I would have been done looking at the sun already. You know, at least uh, I have the gear, I have the software. They both work pretty good together, and it allows you to. Of course, this wouldn't be any good with no features, but at least it allows you to play with what's going on the sun. So, are you following what I'm doing? Am I too fast for you? And what makes these time lapses is these small stacks. Without these small stacks, you're looking at one frame that's got all the atmospherics and the noise, and the stack helps clean all that up, sort of. You know what we can do is your uh, next time you broadcast, just send me a text, and I'll call you, and I'll watch you on Live Skies when it gets back up. Man, we got a lot of pollen here, Jack. Last night when I was out, it smelled like everybody on the block was burning wood. I don't know how Canada, they had huge fires last year. And no, this is a color. It's got very small pixels, and I'm binning it. It's got a special bin mode that turns the stuff black and white. I really shouldn't be using uh, a color camera in this way because of the bare matrix, but it works. Now this is a nice clean frame right here. And you can see by looking at the tracks uh, how much each frame coming in is moving to make that stack. And when they don't move a lot, this is very crisp. It's not a bad image for as poor as the skies are. In fact, I don't think I want to move this, but I will. So it's 2-time FD binning, whatever that means. And that puts the camera into a mono imaging mode, even though it says 1x1 binning, and it says 2x2 here. It's working. I think if I had a little bit larger scope, I would resolve a little more of the detail. But the sun is, I only have 3 months to view the sun where it's fairly high. I mean, like, it's already starting to drop like a rock. I mean, last night the sun set at 8:45, I think. And it was like 9:30 a couple months ago. Oh, I like my below average. So I'm just in a little hole here, but that little hole's full of this. So I'm just now coming out of well, maybe I'm in, and it's still there. But I got all this coming my way. Ain't pretty. I was talking to Matt the other day, and he says it's been horrible to smoke by him. Right here, the time lapse status. So I have 69 frames, and that equals 11 minutes and 30 seconds. Testing 1, 2. Test, test, test. I'm actually not talking very much. Ta-da! I'm actually in the house because it's so hot out today. I'm about 100 foot from all the gear. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, it's about 20 seconds. There's about a 20-second delay, so by the time you type something and you hear my response, it's 20 seconds later. Just timing it now. So that is 17 seconds from the time I moved the mouse till the time I saw it on the stream. Could be. I don't know. Does Lou have solar? So we got 93 frames, 15 minutes. And this is a good example of why this feature tracking is so nice for doing lunar is I really can't, I can set my gear up on the marks, but it's never going to be perfectly polar aligned. So I'm always going to have a little drift, and you can see I'm not drifting. And if I was, there'd be, like a huge black line here. It was, I got a lot of data to work on. I told you 2 nights ago, I set the Raza up on supposedly where the center of the Draconoid meteor shower was supposed to be coming from. And I let it run for 90 minutes. And I'm hoping to see if I have any trails in that 90 minutes. That is because of the way I have to push the stream to them. Then their server has to regurgitate it and then send the stream out. And that takes anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds, sometimes worse, depending on how busy they are. Pretty much any streaming service is going to have a delay. just because of the architecture that they're using. So if you use Twitch, if you use YouTube, if you use Facebook, if you use whoever, they all do it the same way. They have a streaming URL that you have to push your stuff out to, and then there's a stream key. Now, if I do the same thing on Live Skies, I get the same delay. So if I use the stream key and the streaming URL, I have the same delay. I'm pushing the stream to the Live Skies server. The Live Skies server has to do its thing, and then it sends it out, and that takes time. Versus the whatever it's called. What is it called? The virtual camera. And nobody would use the virtual camera mainly because while they're regurgitating, they're looking for stuff. They just don't want people blindly streaming. So they have algorithms within their servers that are, while it's processing the video to send it back out, it's also looking for stuff. So that's going to induce a delay. And if it finds something that it doesn't like, your stream doesn't go. So we have about 20 minutes. You can already see that this area right in here is starting to do something because this looks like new. So I don't know if this filament is starting to get change. And what also helps with the stacking is because of the size of this image, I'm half wavelet scaling all the data that's coming in. And basically what that does is it blows the image up, applies the wavelets, and then it shrinks it back down before it applies it to the stack. Which is why my machine is probably working overtime. Got some bad air there. You can really see that this thing has changed again. Yeah. I'm going to go out to 30. And the other thing it does is by stacking 80 frames, it helps with the focus. Because every frame is going to be different focus-wise. And the denoise and the fine are kind of like sharpening tools. think what was happening was I wasn't stopping the feature track. $139 frames, 140, 140, 150 is 3 minutes. Or I'm sorry. What is 150? 30 minutes, right? 30 seconds. $150 divided by 60 is 2.5 seconds. Nah. Guess so. You can see that it something going on again right there. Very active region. And those little flares have calmed down. One right there. Big ball of plasma. Yep. Because it takes so long for all this, the sun is so big, it just, the scale of this stuff, it just appears to take a long time to happen, but these are huge distances. And a time lapse helps you to see that. Five more minutes, 6 more minutes, actually. I'm sorry, 4 more minutes. Learn how to count. Six. 60. Three minutes. Yay. So if you had an Alt-AZ mount, you could change this number to help you with rotation, because eventually the stack would fail because of that rotation. So you would use that in combination with this to get yourself good frames. 2 more minutes. And you can see the skies took a dump. Still looks good though. Moments of clarity. Might be windy out too. No, it's not windy. There, that just got brighter. And we're starting to flare. I might have to let this go. Huh. Maybe not. There'll be other ones. Yep, it's flaring. Okay, let's take a peek here, Jack. Oh, neat. Look at him moving. How cool is that? Wow. Even over here. Feature trackers lock solid today. That is neat. That is freaking neat. Wow. That whole area is just too hot to handle. Lou doesn't know what he missed. Well, I'm going to call it, Jack. Been on for a little over an hour and a half. That is so cool. I could almost watch this forever. Yikes. Alrighty, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you learned something you can use. Did she see it? I can put it back up. Take it easy, Jack. See you, Sky.